And I am joined by Mr. Nyamwea. Of course, remember on Ask Siasa, it's all about your opinion. We talk about matters politics, matters state of the nation. So feel free to give comments as well as your opinion section. Tell us your thoughts on the issues that we are discussing, as well as probably some recommendations that you might be having in regards to the matters that we are discussing again. Now, we know what is currently happening in Kenya, of course, is that the Azimio leader, that is Raila Odinga, has just made his reaction on the NADCO, the National Dialogue Committee report that was submitted 2 days ago. And of course, we had some issues that have been agreed upon, others have been disagreed upon, and the final report is now here with us. Number one, before I even ask you any further questions, what is your reaction on the matters that were actually agreed upon by these two parties, or these two parties that came together in the National Dialogue Committee?
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you again for that question, and thank you for having me in this studio.
You're welcome.
So I'm so much pleased. Actually, to me, what I'm seeing, the only real optionality or flexibility Kenyan people are remaining with is just to work on their own, and assume that they never elected a president or leaders. You know, when I talk of a president, we include leaders who are around him, who are supporting him to work for the people. If you see that report, actually, the interest of common man is not involved. They did not. The reasons why I'm saying that is that, you know, we thought that the main agenda could be the high cost of living.
No.
But now, what I saw in that report is about creating the office of the Prime Minister, creating the office of Leader of Opposition, official Leader of Opposition. It's about IPC. It's about presidential petition from 14 days
to 21 days.
To 21 days. You know, now, if we ask, is the common mwananchi gathered in that report? It isn't. So, actually, let me tell you, you cannot, if you don't respect the suit that you used to, which transported you to where you went to buy new shoes, then, because you will use the same shoes to the shop to buy a new one and use it back, because you cannot wear the new one immediately. You have to use it again back. I think you are getting me. You have to use it again back. It's as if Kenyans are used politically to cater for interest of politicians. And after politicians have been elected into office, they forget immediately. In fact, it never took even 1 week before they forget all the promises they used to give Kenyans during their campaigns. Are you seeing this, Tamara? So I think this is not for those ones who voted for or who did not. It's all Kenyans. We are talking about Kenyans. Those Kenyans, the president or this regime promised that they will work hand in hand to solve the problems of these people, to help hustlers, actually, to bottom up Kenyans, especially those ones who are languishing in poverty, to at least be somewhere where they are, at least they feel that they are in their country. But now, you can remember, I've taken, let me actually open up. Then you see, I think you watched all when the president was at Bomet, Sotigi, what happened. The people bought at the CS for Jiri Jiri.
No.
For treasury, for finance. And they was forced to sit down. You see? And again, the same thing, I know why I'm bringing this. And the same thing has happened to Murukomen three times. Last time, he was forced even not to alight from his car. He was forced to drive away without addressing the people he wanted to address. Last weekend, he attended or seated a function of a tournament in a cabinet statue. Again, he was poured with people. When he went to mention, do you know what happened? He mentioned that President William Ruto is the only president we can trust and the only president we have. Now people started chanting, shouting at him. What do I want to say? Is that this is not about Kikuyus, not about Kalenjins. It is common Mwanahinji, the people of Kenya. When you see those people who other people are expecting that there will be, because their son, let me use that, is the son, the president is the son of this country. But also, there is somewhere where he comes from the origin, his origin. So when Kenyans also see how people are reacting against the leaders who they elected from that side, then automatically we know that things are not good. They are not well on the ground.
Okay, and of course, to our viewers, I'm also asking you the same question. You can give your reactions, of course, on the comment section. Feel free. Karibu sana. This is Ask Siasa right here on Kenya News Alerts TV. Now, we have seen that these two parties, of course, the National Dialogue Committee was comprised of people from both the Azimio La Umoja coalition as well as the Kenya Kwanza, you know, and they've come together. They have agreed on certain issues, which, according to the ground, is something that all the agreements that they have made are actually for political gains, you know, and the political gains, of course, do not benefit the current government only, but it does also benefit opposition at large, you know. Now, when we look at Azimio La Umoja, the main reason as to why they actually, number one, went to the streets, as Baba puts it, consulting the people. Went to the street, went to consult the people is because of the issue of the cost of living, you know, and
that would be the key issue for that discussion.
Yes. And even throughout following the national, of course, the dialogue that was happening, the talks, we never saw the cost of living actually being prioritized. It's only when the talks were coming to an end that we saw the likes of Martha Karua stating that if the cost of living is not addressed, then no signatures are going to be put there. And then we saw on this other side, the Kenya Kwanza side, saying that the housing levy should not be touched, you know. So in between all that, we have not seen the major thing being the common mananchi being catered for, you know. And we have seen Kenyans put trust in these two particular coalitions, of course, to try and bring sanity in Kenya. So at this point, can Kenyans sit down and say that both sides have actually failed or have not delivered as per Kenyans expected, and not now blame the current government for the issues that are ongoing?
Thank you, Damara. I also want to answer you that question by asking another question.
Okay.
Asking to our viewers, to ourselves. And how comes they agreed on the other key issues concerning that both as politicians? About creating the office of the Prime Minister, creating the office of the leader of opposition, extending IBC petition days from 14 to 21. And actually, what I saw is about IBC and creating offices. But the main agenda which Kenyans have been waiting for all this time to be addressed was not addressed. You see? So sometimes politicians are very funny. I normally use that term when we have such a discussion like this one. They are very funny. You sometimes don't understand. I fail to understand what is really their main agenda. Now they were put from opposition and the but here now comes the case that they have agreed on their on the key issues concerning which actually I term them as concerning politicians because it's about creating offices.
No.
They are offices.
No.
Are you seeing this? And after they have given that report, they have presented that report, is when some of them have come out strongly defending and opposing.
No.
And the question we are asking ourselves, is this report signed? Okay. Kwa nini hawangeiacha? You know, you know there are a lot of questions raised.
No.
We are the watchdog of human of Kenya Mwananchi, of Mwananchi. Those are the questions Kenyans are also asking themselves.
No.
How? Why? How? What? Ilikuwaje rahisi kwao to agree on key issues concerning them, and omitted the one that Kenyans have been waiting for all this time.
Yeah.
So, Tamara, I've been with politicians. Some of them the late, and some of them who are today alive today. Obviously, most of the politicians have dealt to it. They normally fight for space, for their interests. After that, they forget. Actually, Mr. Raila, was not in that, but he has the whole information.
No.
He has the whole information. He cannot say. He could not be informed, or he was not told about what was going on with the whole report.
No.
He knows, of course. But what we are saying, let them stop or not sign that report if it doesn't mention anything or touch anything concerning high cost of living.
And of course, we're also looking at this other side where they have not mentioned, of course, as you said, they have not touched on the issue of the cost of living. And we've seen now Raila come up and talk about the issue, of course, of high taxation for Kenyans, the issue of oil, the issue of fuel as well.
The issue of privatization.
Yeah, the issue of privatization of some of the likes of Kenya Pipeline as well as KICC. And with all this, of course, would you say we have missed or the opposition side as well is sort of has, should I say, misprioritized what it had intended for Kenyans? And what's your take on what is going to happen next now that we have clearly seen months of national dialogue, people sitting down to talk, and after all this, nothing has actually been touched on that is affecting Kenyans and the current cost of living. And now the issue is, or the talks are, we might be going back to Mandamano, we might be going back to the streets.
Tamara, let me tell you, with what I'm seeing all over the country, it's as if the government is busy paying politicians to support them. I'm saying that because of what is happening at Kisii, what is happening all over Kakamega, Trans Nzoia, and very many other parts, even Mombasa. If you really follow what is going on in those counts I mentioned, I'm telling you, is a simple and clear indication that the government is busy focusing 2027. It has forgotten common Mwananchi, actually. And if I did not hear Mr. Raila wrong, he said that he is waiting for that report. If it doesn't mention or touch or cater for issues concerning high cost of living, then they will go back to street.
And that is actually the reaction that he made today, because he was talking about the report, what the content of the report was, and said that even them as Azimio la Umoja, they are disappointed by the outcome Of
of that
course,
report.
yes, of course, considering the fact that the issue of the cost of living has not been addressed in that report. And that is why the biggest question that we are asking out here is you are part of the National Dialogue Committee, you are part of the discussions, you know, you are part of the people who are supposed to be catering or looking at the common humanity has been crying. You are supposed to be the person who was to put on the table the fact that we went to the streets and this happened because of the high cost of living we've seen. Every day you wake up, taxation and all that, you know. Is it a failure on their side? Because now once again we are seeing it's like a shift of blame between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja on the kind of agreement as well as the kind of disagreements that they had from this report.
The matter from the word to go, if you can remember, we have discussed this in this same show
No.
several times. I think the government was not ready about it was forced actually. Let me say the government was forced because of Mandamano. If you have not forgotten, remember what normally Ndindi Nyoro says. It's not part and parcel of the discussion.
No.
It doesn't support the discussion. And you see, if the government itself does not support about high cost of living, about its own citizens, Tamara, you have seen what has happened with even El Nino. We were told openly, the deputy president, that they have set aside money to cater for El Nino, and it has been raining. People have been taken, everything, properties of people have been swept away by the floods. And imagine on this Monday, yesterday but one, is when they came out. They came out with an agenda of supporting those people wale ambao wamehusika na maandamano nini. So actually, if you ask yourself a simple question again, why the government has been quiet about this issue of maandamano? I mean, why is my maandamano ringing in my head again? About this issue of
the floods,
yeah, El Nino. Okay. Apart from the opposition, to answer your question, apart from the opposition, what is the government really planning about its people? It is the government in place. They are the ones who are in the government. They have been elected into this government where they promise to work for the people, where they promise to bottom the people up from where they are. I don't know where, but we normally used bottom up. Even I think Kenyans are not aware how they were going to be bottomed up. It's now they have realized that it is the opposite of what they thought. Because everything is being, life is bottomed up. Fuel cost bottomed up. Tax bottomed up. Everything is bottomed up. Not really common mwananchi was to be bottomed up. Are you seeing now the opposite? So, what I can also say, if we blame opposition, what is the government really thinking about its people? What is it really planning about common mwananchi when people are suffering? Some of them, their properties have been swept away by the floods. Some people, lives have been swept away by the floods. And actually, you know what, how people have suffered with it. Yeah.
Okay, and of course, on us, Siasa, we say that we keep it short and sweet. So I just have a final question to you. I would like your opinion on it as well as to our viewers. Feel free to give us your opinion on the comment section below. Now we have Azimio la Umoja here. Let me even demonstrate
the
government on this side. And we have the National Dialogue Committee here in the middle where my face is, you know. And we've had the talks, of course. We've seen the report. They have presented to us their findings, of course, in a very lively event. We've seen the issues that have been addressed, of course, by both sides. We've seen the issues that have been agreed on by both sides, and clearly, the common mwananchi is in between where my face is.
Not even in between. The back of these people.
Okay, the back of these people. Let's put it as Mr. Nyawea says it. So, to you as a Kenyan, what should be the next step forward? And that is the same question I'm asking you, Mr. Henry Nyamwea. To the Kenyans, we have people we trusted as Kenyans, or people Kenyans trusted to represent them. We have people Kenyans have trusted to be the current government and lead them. And clearly, the people are at the back as you phrased it. So what should Kenyans do? What is your opinion on what should be the next step now that the dialogue is over?
It's a straight answer, my sister.
Mm-hmm.
This is the government,
Mm-hmm.
and this is opposition.
No.
And you have said this is national dialogue.
No.
Remember, those are not the people in this side, and the ones who are in this side are all politicians.
No.
National dialogue is people from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting me?
No.
But actually, what they have come out with
Mm-hmm.
is not pleasing to common mwananchi.
Mm-hmm.
The expectations of Kenyans was to reduce high cost of living.
No.
But it never happened. Now, what we are seeing is completely the opposite. It's about creating the office of the president, the
Opposition.
prime minister, about creating the office of the opposition leader, about reducing IPC petition days from 14 to 21.
No.
Is there anywhere common mwananchi mentioned today? Is there about anywhere they have mentioned about high cost of living or reducing fuel or reducing anything? Last time we talked about trips, men trips or outside, and I told you something I think you have not forgotten. There is something which which was to happen on a Thursday. Do you remember? Did it happen? I told you these are stories. The president promised on a certain Saturday, and I told you I will come to remind you if you have not forgotten. Did anything happen? Nothing. He said that life will change as from this Saturday. Thursday. Do you remember that? So, what we are saying, my sister, you will be surprised to realize, because we are almost selling the whole country. If we are selling KICC, if we are selling new KCC, 14 point something billion, KICC, 6 point something billion, and all of these other parastatals. I asked you another question. I've never forgotten. Why are we not thinking of expanding our parastatals to create more employment chances, vacancies for our young youth? You remember, I asked such question. So these people are not thinking about common mwananchi anymore. I'm telling you, these are robots we elected into leadership. They came with an hidden agenda. What they told the people is not what they had in their mind. This is exactly now, what is coming out is exactly what they had in their mind when they were campaigning. This is the true reality of what was in their mind. These people will say Kenya. I'm telling you. I heard someone, is an intellectual professor, who said that you do what? You erect a hyena to take care of your sheep, and when the sheep have been, care of goats, and when the goats have been eaten, you start wondering why, and you are the one who erected them. These are political robots. They cannot take this country anymore. I told you, and I repeat saying that, and I will continue saying that. You wait even 2.5 years. The one I promised you is almost approaching, and you wait even 5 years. Anyway, you might ask me why am I saying so. Remember, the Kimani Chungwa we have now was finance chairman parliamentary committee during Uhuru Kenyatta. You agree with me? He was finance what? Chairman. in that committee about budget and everything, parliamentary committee. All these people you are seeing here, they are the ones who meant anything in that former government. They are saying every day former government. Okay, you know we are charging the president for 1.5 years now. Again, what I want to say is, let the president come also openly before he appoints fingers to the former government and tell us what they did when they used to work with Uhuru, wearing the same suits, the same suit and everything. Alright, let him come out openly. Let him not talk about that term. Let him talk about the first term, 5 years. You know we are judging him for 1.5 years. But let him come openly and tell Kenyans what they did in their first term. When they used to work together, eat together, wear the same suits, wear the same tie. Do you remember that time? What did they do? What happened, Tamara, is rooting and grabbing. That's where they got campaigning money from. Money for campaign. Because they cannot tell us they had all of those resources they used to campaign with. So, whatever politician tells you, kuna politician from Western anaitwa Vikori Wakori. He said, sisi wanasiasa ni kama saitani. Kila kitu tunakuambia leo, sio ndio tunafikiria hapa. And it is actually openly and evident that what these politicians promised Kenyans is the opposite. It's the opposite of what they are doing now. Meaning, it simply means that they had an hidden agenda. This Kenya will be sold. If we sell all 14 parastatals, now the remaining will be universities. I'm telling you. Utajeka na mimi. If they sell 14 parastatals, instead of expanding them and create employment vacancies for our youths, then what is remaining to be sold is our universities. And finally, what will remain is to sell status and go out.
And to our viewers, I think that is how we're going to end our Siasa. But remember the question that I posed to you. Are you satisfied, of course, with the agreements and disagreements from the bipartisan reports, that is by the National Dialogue Committee, as well as what is the next step for you as a Kenyan when it comes to lowering the cost of living, or how you're going to survive in these tough times? Feel free to tell us your opinion on the comment section. This has been Ask Siasa. Of course, Mr. Henry Nyamwea has joined us today. My name is Tamara Patience, and see you in the next Ask Siasa. Remember, it's all about your opinion.
Thank you.
Election, sweat, tears, police brutality and death amid a steep rise in the cost of living, which has only got worse as the talks were being concluded. We want to thank all the people of Kenya, the media, fraternity, and other stakeholders for exercising great patience and restraint as the dialogue continued. I thank the members from both sides of the talks for their commitment and dedication to national duty. After the initial tension and mistrust, which was expected, the parties gelled and worked well together. Trust returned in their ranks, and they were then able to show a strong commitment to peace and reconciliation and the strengthening of institutions and governance process in Kenya. The document the team has come up with is ultimately imperfect and unfinished, but it is a good beginning. We have agreed to disagree on the most important matter to us. We made what we believed were reasonable proposals on how to address the rising cost of living. But the government side flatly refused, terming it their exclusive business and further arguing that they got the mandate of Kenyans to execute the Kenya Kwanza economic agenda. We will be engaging Kenyans further in the coming weeks as we must, because the pain of the cost of living is really unbearable. In the coming weeks, the majority of Kenyans will be carrying the burden of increased school fees besides the many crises in the education sector. Be that as it may, we have come this far because of a commitment to constructive engagement and positive energy and sacrifice for the sake of our beloved country, Kenya. Our team was able to get positive results on a number of the issues that we had set out in our demands. These include electoral justice, which encapsulates audit of the 2022 election process, restructuring and the constitution of the IEBC, increase of the timelines for the Supreme Court to hear and determine a presidential election petition from 14 to 21 days, and a commitment to the spirit of multi-party democracy. We were also able to agree on the transfer of all devolved functions and the requisite resources to the county governments, in addition to amending the constitution to provide for the equitable share of the county governments to not less than 20% of all revenue collected by the national government from the current 15%, and the establishment of the World Development Fund. We believe that these are significant reform mileages that, if implemented, can help strengthen our governance and electoral processes and safeguard the march of democracy in Kenya. Azimio, however, remains deeply disappointed that the committee was not able to agree on the one fundamental issue on which Kenyans are united across the political divide. The two teams were unable to agree on the need and the means to reduce the cost of living. This is why we have described the document the committee presented as imperfect and unfinished. It was not for lack of trying on our part that the committee was unable to agree on the issue of cost of living. Kenyans will recall that at the beginning of the talks, the Kenya Kwanza administration was adamant that cost of living would never be taken to the discussion table, let alone being discussed. The Kenya Kwanza had insisted that the only issues it was ready to discuss were the reconstitution of the IEBC, implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, entrenchment of constituency development fund, establishment and entrenchment of the office of the leader of the opposition, and the embedment of the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary. Through persistence and insistence, we forced cost of living onto the table. We had hoped that as the talks progressed, when life got harder for Kenyans, Kenya Kwanza leaders could have the empathy, soften their hearts, and agree to lessen the burden their policies had imposed on Kenyans. Our delegation pushed for the complete overhaul of the Finance Act 2023, which had come with harsh taxation measures and made and continue to make life unbearable to an overwhelming majority of Kenyans. At no expense to the government, we deployed our team of economists to recommend to the administration measures which, if adopted, would immediately bring the cost of living down. We asked the government to reduce travel budgets by 50%. We also called on the government to reduce the daily subsistence allowances for state and public officers by 30%. We further asked the government to reduce the road maintenance levy and the anti-adulteration levy by 5 shillings and 3 shillings per litre respectively. Our team further asked the government to reduce VAT on fuel from 16% to 8%. We called on the government to scrap the housing levy or at least make it voluntary. Unfortunately, Kenya Kwanza would not budge. Apparently, the regime's economic policies hardened life for Kenyans, so did the regime harden its heart. We realized that without the goodwill of the top echelons of the Kenya Kwanza leadership, cost of living was never going to be addressed. They told our team that the cost of living was a government issue, that they have a manifesto and the mandate of the people of Kenya to implement it. This is the hustlers, the Juakali, the Mamamboga, and the Boda Boda. Our team realized that the whole issue of cost of living is extremely sensitive in the Kenya Kwanza circles because it is a gravy train on which many corrupt interests have converged. Cost of living cannot come down because the key people in the government are eating from it. That is why cabinet secretaries and other Kenya Kwanza shareholders recently fought over oil in the high seas. We got to understand that the housing levy, which even the courts have now found to be unconstitutional, cannot be scrapped because it is a gravy train. It is from this levy that the Kenya Kwanza hopes to build a campaign war chest for the next election. They forget that they may not get there. We realized that Kenya Kwanza cannot touch cost of living because it anchors the massive corruption that has returned to the country. We made it clear that we completely disagree with the government on the matter of cost of living. We made it clear that we will support the document ensuing from the talks, but we will treat the hard line on the cost of living at the beginning of another phase of this struggle. We will seek other ways to press the government to listen to the cries of the people and bring down the cost of living. The other ways will include, but will not be limited to, consultations with the people. At all times, we will retain the right to call on the people to take steps that we deem necessary to force the government to lower the cost of living. We also support the document with the proviso that certain aspects must be approved by the people by way of a referendum. To create the office of the leader of opposition or to formalize the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the people of Kenya have to have their say by way of a referendum. Besides, it is a constitutional requirement that such significant restructuring of government must go through a referendum to avoid the mischief that may be played by some people going to court. It is also our stand that this country cannot continue moving forward by being undecided. We have to agree whether we want a parliamentary, presidential system or a hybrid system. Thank you. End of the statement.